Resident Evil 7 is the single most effective horror effort produced in the franchise's 30-year history, and I don't think they can ever make a game like this or this good again. That's a bold claim to make, especially when you consider the landmark titles that make up the series, games that just genuinely altered the gaming space like Resident Evil 4. I am going to do something super cool now. In just a few seconds, I'm going to catch up any new viewers on the necessary events needed to appreciate this video. Resident Evil started in 1996, releasing a critically acclaimed trilogy of games on the PS1 that focused on survival horror with fixed camera angles and featured series regulars Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Leon Kennedy, and Claire Redfield. A second trilogy released on the PS2 and PS3 era that used the revolutionary over-the-shoulder camera and focused on more action, with 4 having a little bit of horror, 5 having basically none, and 6 being a fucking Michael Bay movie that was a giant series crossover. 6 underperformed, was hated by the fans, and put the series in hiatus for 5 years. Boom, that is a TikTok attention span as summary, and that is all you really need to know for the purpose of this video. Resi has kind of lost its identity and rebranded into a whole new game, at this point. So for the 7th game, people assumed that Capcom would just go back to their roots and placate the fans. Instead, they decided to go for what looked like another massive rebrand of the series. A lot of fans believe that a studio and artists are just supposed to give them whatever they're asking for. I think in reality, a great artist gives the audience something that they didn't know they wanted. Biohazard went on to become an unprecedented hit with critics and fans, receiving universal praise, along with becoming the best-selling entry in the series. And it didn't sell well, like out the gate. It's moved over 16 million units total and has somehow managed to sell over 1 million copies every single year since its release, and will likely do so again in 2026. So how did it do that? I mean, the answer is simple. It's just a really fucking good game, and I think it's just so obviously good that it's easy to take for granted how many different elements had to perfectly align to make this. But without wasting any more of anyone's time, let's dive into the game, because that's what you're here for. Also, if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, all that. It really does mean a lot. Resident Evil 7 puts you in the shoes of Ethan Winters, the most average guy ever created. He's just a dude living in Los Angeles with his wife Mia, who goes out of town on a babysitting job. While she's on this trip, Mia sends Ethan a video telling him that she lied to him, she's sorry, and if he ever receives this video, to stay away and forget she ever existed.
Ethan, you were right. I did lie to you. I shouldn't have. All I can say is that if you get this, stay away.
This all happens 3 years before the start of the game. When you first boot up the title, Ethan has packed up and left Los Angeles in the dead of night when he received an email from Mia, who had been presumed dead, telling him to come find her and giving her exact location, the Baker Estate in Dulvey, Louisiana. This is an amazing hook for a game. It provides a ton of mystery, along with clear objectives. Go to Louisiana, save Mia, and unravel the mystery of what happened to her and what she was lying about. And this is all done in like 2 minutes. Another thing I want to point out is how lifelike this game is. But just specifically, there's this one shot of this driving sequence that I swear is just real footage. I would never go to no goddamn Louisiana swampland. All due respect to everyone who's there, but this shit looks horrifying. Jesus Christ.
Dulvey, Louisiana.
Dude, it's been 3 years.
I know, but what if it is her?
That is...
I have to find out what happened.
What the fuck was I just looking at? This was the first Resi game to release on the PS4 and Xbox One era, and employed the brand new RE engine designed specifically for these games, and it was a massive selling point for it. The 8th generation of consoles was just a few years in, and the novelty of hyper-realistic games hadn't worn off yet. We can all celebrate because Objective 1 has been completed. Go to Louisiana. If everything past here is this simple, we'll be out of here in no time. Ethan arrives at the Baker residence and has to find a way inside as the front gate is locked. Things are immediately very unsettling. Shrines are made up of dismembered animal carcasses, and Ethan manages to find a damaged purse containing Mia's license and an abandoned van used by a low-budget ghost hunting show called Sewer Gators. The setting is portrayed perfectly. Biohazard chooses to set this opening during the daytime rather than waiting for night. A lot of horror stories default to night in the dark because the dark is used to create shadow, which are places where your vision is obscured, and that's where the horror comes from. the unknown, the things you can't see. But the horror of Biohazard lies in what you do see, just gross, harsh yellows and greens that burn into your eyes, flies swarm around, the ground is grimy and nasty. This is not a place you would ever want to be. It's hot and sweaty and sticky and bloody, all things that you wouldn't be able to experience or see if it was dark. Before long, Ethan arrives at the guest house, where things might look even worse. The house is decrepit and falling apart. The fridge and tables are full of rotting food, overrun by insects. Ethan even finds a newspaper covering a massive string of disappearances in the area, and maybe the first familiar Resident Evil staple comes into play. Certain objects around the game will have a prompt allowing you to pick them up. Most of these can't be used in any way, but inspecting them, Ethan will give his thoughts on the item and maybe learn a little bit about the story and world. In this game, the majority of what you'll find are files, notes, and other written messages that Ethan will log. Reading all of these is essential to understand the conspiracy at the heart of every Resident Evil game. The game then introduces its first new mechanic, the tapes. Unable to find a way to advance through the house, Ethan plays a tape that he finds, hoping to get a clue. These let you play as a different character in a short segment and expand the story, while sometimes teasing upcoming events and characters. The first tape puts you in control of a brand new character, Clancy Jarvis, the cameraman for the aforementioned Surrogator show. Clancy is new to the job and follows around the show's host, Peter Walken, and his producer, Andre Stickland. And this entire segment is taken place through his video camera filming this episode, so the sound is very staticky and crackly, which it does a good job immersing you in this kind of setting. I also want to give a quick shout out to Robert Vestal, who plays Peter. This guy's hilarious. This segment is only about 5 minutes long, but his comedic timing and line delivery is something I genuinely always look forward to seeing. If there are any other Peter Walken truthers out there, please comment below. I can't be alone.
Fuck me. I was an anchor, you know?
Weekend sub, Pete. Not anchor.
What's that?
Nothing.
The trio entered the same house you did, but to them, everything appears fairly normal. The condition of the house isn't that terrible. Clancy finds the same pot of food on the table, but when he goes to check, no insects crawl out. It is still nasty and rotten, though. Andre explains to the owners of the house the Bakers disappeared about 3 years ago, and the police suspect foul play. While Clancy films Peter, Andre slips off to investigate another room and disappears, prompting the other two to go searching for him. They enter the room Ethan is currently standing in present day, but when Peter finds a hidden latch that opens up a secret door to another part of the house, they go inside. Peter sends Clancy down the ladder to investigate first, and he finds Andre standing face against a wall in a Blair Witch Project homage, but when Clancy turns around, Andre is dead, bleeding from his mouth and eyes. The tape ends with Clancy screaming as someone walks in. A lot of people assume that Peter's just killed off screen in this scene, but since this is a well-researched, all-encompassing video, I'll give you the real answer. Peter's fate is technically shown in two segments. First was this viral marketing stunt that Capcom did, where they sent videotapes and a VCR to various gaming content creators. On the tape was footage of Clancy. He's clearly in a panic state, talking to the camera, saying that he needs help, and he actually does say the name of the specific content creator that received the video, and it ends with him being grabbed and taken away. His final fate is shown in a VR demo called Kitchen. Clancy and Peter are taken, as you may have guessed, to the kitchen, where they wake up with their hands bound. Peter manages to get a knife and tries to cut Clancy free, when a mysterious figure that I'm not going to identify for you stabs him through the back. The figure then grabs Clancy, preparing to kill him, when Peter sacrifices himself by tackling them away, where he promptly has his head cut off and tossed to Clancy. This is actually a really cool death for Peter, since he's kind of portrayed as this weaselly little man in the game, but my guy really does go out like a G. You know, shout out to him. Clancy's story, however, does not end here. The banned footage DLC packs show what happened to him after this, but we'll cover those as they become relevant and where I think they fit into the game. For now, it's back to Ethan, who, having seen the hidden latch, is able to follow the path taken by Clancy and the others. Making his way through the swamp water beneath the house, Ethan actually encounters Andre's decomposing corpse. Nice. This is when the game throws its first big curveball at you. Upon entering the basement, Ethan just immediately finds Mia totally alive, unharmed, just waiting in a cell to be rescued. That's another objective down, and saving Mia is implied to be the main objective of the game, like the thing you're going to be working for at least the majority of the story. But before he encounters any threats or danger, Ethan just finds her 20 minutes into the game. Mia's behavior, however, is a bit strange. She has no memory of ever contacting Ethan and telling him to come get her, and she proceeds to say some troubling things.
Who else is here? What the hell's going on?
Daddy's coming. We need to go.
Daddy?
We need to go now.
You need to explain that shit to me on the spot. I don't care if we both get smoked. Despite having no memory, not even being aware that she's been missing for 3 years, Mia seems to have clear knowledge of the layout of the house as she leads you both to an exit. The dimly lit corridors you work your way through tell kind of a story: a gurney with bloodied sheets and medical equipment, clear bags packed tight with what I can only assume is human flesh, dozens of shoes belonging to the previous victims who found themselves here. Eventually, Mia's path leads to a dead end and she begins to panic.
It's not here. It's gone. It's gone. We're gonna be a family now that you're here.
You gotta punch her in the face right now.
There's another door here. I'm sure of it.
Right there, you just have to rock her shit as hard as you can. Mia passes out on the sofa and leaves Ethan to try and find this mysterious door as he wonders what's wrong with her. As soon as he steps into the next room, there's a large crash and Mia screams. When he runs back to check on her, Mia's gone and a hole has been broken straight through the wall. Going through, Ethan takes a flight of stairs up to a hallway, but when his search leads to a locked door, a knocking sound draws him back to the very same set of stairs he just came from. Hello? Fuck that. Kick her ass down the stairs. Mia is the very same person who killed Peter in the kitchen and attacked Clancy, but she's not feeling herself. Maybe she needs a Snickers or something.
Shut up! Time to teach Peter a lesson.
Marcia, eat a Snickers.
Why?
You get a little hostile when you're hungry. Better? Better.
Mia now uses the same knife she used to kill Peter to attack Ethan. Ethan tries to defend himself, but as you can imagine, he's unarmed, so that really doesn't go too well for him. When she finally drives the knife into his shoulder, she snaps out of it. Her eyes and skin return to normal. Rather than attacking Ethan, again, she does this.
I can hear her. I can feel her clawing her way back inside of me. Get out! Leave me alone! I've been bad. I deserve this.
Yeah, maybe. So far, this has been a massive departure from every previous Resident Evil game. And it's not just the gameplay and the first-person perspective. Resident Evil has always been inspired by film, with George Romero and B-movie horror films serving as the foundation for the original game, the campy dialogue,
eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
evil scientists in lab coats, slow shuffling zombies, and the creepy abandoned buildings that feel more like haunted houses from Scooby-Doo. Resident Evil has never featured possessions, found footage snuff films, or serial killers. It's not meant to feel like real life. Biohazard feels more like Saw or an Eli Roth movie. Like, for the first time, Resident Evil is taking itself seriously, and, you know, it's kind of working. Moments after this, Mia just gets back up and throws Ethan clear through a wall, forcing him to pick up a conveniently placed tiny axe and defend himself. After a brief fight, a desperate Ethan manages to smash the axe into her neck, watching Mia return to normal as she falls to the ground dead. Before he can process anything, a phone at the end of the hall rings. Ethan answers and speaks to Zoe, another key character in the story. She doesn't provide answers, but tells Ethan there's an exit if he can get to the attic.
You really shouldn't have come here.
Who's this? And what the fuck is going on?
My name's Zoe. There should be a way out through the attic.
Attic.
Go there. Now.
During that 15-second phone call, Mia got up and just walked away, opening up the previously locked door leading back to the guest house. After activating the power, Ethan tries to go upstairs when he's stopped by Mia, who once again has returned to normal. Bro, I see the weapon behind your hand.
You shouldn't have done that. It fucking hurts.
Oh, this part's so much incredible content just in these like opening 30 minutes.
Let's see what you feel.
Okay, let's be reasonable. Let's talk this one through. This is another big ballsy move for this game. It's very uncommon for the player character to get this fucked up, especially this early in the story. Like, buy me dinner first before you start chopping essential appendages off. But it's important. Capcom wanted to show that they weren't fucking around with this one. So after chopping his hand off, Mia just fucks off, leaving Ethan to pick up his hand and head to the attic, where he finds a handgun and some ammo that he's able to make work even with just one hand. I just said hand so many times in that sentence. Finding the exit, Ethan tries to climb up a ladder and get out of the Baker house once and for all, when Mia appears, still wielding the chainsaw. Left with no other choice and probably still pissed off about his hand, there it is again, Ethan chooses the permanent solution and shoots Mia before she can kill him. This time, she doesn't revert to normal, but just falls to her knees. Before he can process what's even happened, Ethan is grabbed from behind by Jack Baker, who proceeds to knock him to the ground with a punch and drop the most iconic line in the franchise.
Welcome to the family, son.
Jack then stomps Ethan's face and everything goes black. We get brief flashes of scenes, Jack dragging Ethan and Mia's bodies to the main house, a woman reattaching Ethan's hand and giving him this kind of wrist Apple Watch codec device. Through her voice we can tell this is Zoe, the person who called us on the phone. Ethan finally wakes up in the dining room of the main house. In front of him is a table piled high with pots and plates containing what appear to be carcasses, organs, and other objects of likely human origin. You know, traditional Southern cooking. At the table with him is the Baker family. Jack, who we briefly met, the mother Marguerite, and their son Lucas. Through their dialogue we learn all their names, but there's a fourth member who doesn't speak or react to anything or even get identified for us. An older woman in a wheelchair, likely inspired by the grandfather in the original Texas Chainsaw movie, which served as a big inspiration for the visuals of this game. Weirdly enough, the Baker family have no hostility to Ethan. It seems like Jack's welcome to the family may have been genuine. Although they don't show any aggression to Ethan here, Marguerite gets offended when Ethan refuses to eat the food she prepared. Lucas mocks Ethan throwing a plate of food at him, which prompts Jack to grab a knife and just cut his arm off at the elbow. As the scene continues, Ethan still refuses to eat, causing Marguerite to get more agitated and eventually leave. Jack drives his knife into Ethan's face in a bid to force him to open his mouth, but the scene is interrupted by a ringing phone. Now left alone, Ethan manages to break free from his restraints and begins searching for a way out. The search is cut short when Jack Baker doubles back and sees Ethan wandering the halls. This triggers a pursuit mode for Jack, who will now stalk the house looking for Ethan and just relentlessly pursue him. But after evading Jack, Ethan gets another phone call from Zoe, who tells him there's a way out through the main hall.
You did good, Ethan.
Zoe, right? And what the fuck are these?
Shut up and listen if you want to stay alive. You gotta get out of that house. There might be a way out through the main hall.
All right.
Oh, and that thing on your wrist is a codex. Don't lose it. It's important.
A deputy outside the window signals Ethan to come over and talk to him, and I'll keep it real. This guy may win the award for most incompetent cop in all of fiction. Officer Doofy says he's investigating disappearances in the area, but immediately assumes Ethan is possibly responsible. I understand being cautious, but this was like something else. He does, however, give Ethan a pocket knife to defend himself and sends him to meet him down in the garage. Upon heading down there, Officer Doofy immediately gets like re-aggroed and goes back into interrogation mode, then loses all sense of space and peripheral vision, allowing Jack Baker to sneak up behind him and kill him with a shovel. And for what it's worth, it's a really great kill. Yeah, This is once again one of my favorite scenes in the game, as Ethan grabs the deputy's gun, the keys to Jack's Cadillac, and proceeds to run him over several times. But after a few hits, Jack disappears under the front of the car. As Ethan backs up, the hood is ripped away, and Jack jumps into the passenger seat, forcing him to drive the car erratically. Jack lines the car up with some metal bars and drives into them at full speed. Ethan manages to duck out of the way, leaving Jack to be crushed by the bars. As Ethan gets out of the car, you've likely noticed a pattern by now, as the car goes up in flames and Jack casually gets out to begin walking towards Ethan. As the car explodes, Jack is once again assumed to be dead, but when Ethan tries to exit by a ladder moments later, he's grabbed from behind.
Do I have your attention, boy? You're about to see something wonderful. Oh, fuck!
The rest of this game is absolutely amazing and full of tons of memorable and awesome moments, but there is something so special about this opening hour. It's an incredible hook. It establishes the tone. I also need to take a minute to suck off Jack Baker because they just struck absolute gold with this character.
Shit! Let's finish this, you and I.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take you for a ride. No!
He's cool, he's scary, he's funny, he's memorable. He's the perfect horror villain, and every second you get to spend with him is just a gift from the team at Cap. I've been thinking about it, and I think the reason this intro is so good is that it's all story, and it just never lets off the gas. Like, it opens with a hook, and as soon as you think you understand what's going on a little bit, it throws out some new piece of information, and now you're scrambling to figure out what that means. And what's so cool is that if you read all the files when you do a second playthrough, it's all there. The reveals don't come out of nowhere. I'm beyond excited for Zach Cregger's Resident Evil film, but I would also eat the Baker special dinner if it meant getting like a 4-part Amazon or HBO miniseries adapting this game. When you think of games that would make a good movie or show, people always talk about like Uncharted or Halo, which had like infamously really well liked adaptations, or like Mass Effect. And obviously Resident Evil has its own film history, but I think everyone kind of looks the potential of Biohazard to just be like, it's already a movie. I know people say it a lot, but the Biohazard, it truly does like already have the foundation laid out. And I mean, it's possible to fuck that up. The Uncharted movie did. But anyways, back to the game. Ethan finally enters the main hall and receives another phone call from Zoe, who reveals that she's the daughter of the Baker family. She provides Ethan with his next mission to find a way to unlock the main door and escape the house. This takes the form of 3 metal dog heads that are used to open the door. You know, classic Resident Evil nonsense. Ethan makes his way upstairs where he finds a TV and yet another tape, this one labeled Mia. Playing the tape puts a few more pieces in place on the puzzle. We learn that not only did Mia survive her encounter with Ethan, but she's somehow managed to just retain control over herself and has been on the run from the Bakers as well. She's spotted outside the estate by Marguerite, who chases her into the old house, which, as the name implies, was the old Baker residence before it was heavily damaged by a storm. Marguerite chases Mia through the house similar to the way Jack does, and a new voice says something to Mia.
Over here, Mommy.
After accessing another part of the house, Marguerite delivers another important line.
I know you and Zoe are plotting. I know you were scheming. You think I don't know what you want to do with that boy, Ethan?
As Mia sneaks past her, she enters a crawl space where she's eventually caught.
Where do you think you're going?
The tape ends with Mia begging for help as she's dragged away. Ethan's search eventually leads him to the bathroom, but as he tries to leave, Jack appears once again, his head reforming from the self-inflicted gunshot wound. Ethan breaks free, and Jack stalks into the halls, never too far behind.
I found you.
What do you mean? Go away! You can't follow me down here. Like, get a fucking life, dude. I don't know how close this fool is. That's what scares me about this chase. I don't know where the fuck he is. Bro! Fucking... Oh! Now the game really starts to feel like Resident Evil, and a lot of the classic tropes that define this franchise pop up. Doors are locked by unique keys. In this game, a crow, snake, and scorpion. You have to scrounge for ammo and health, crafting whatever you can. Your inventory space is limited, meaning you have to constantly choose what to take and what to leave behind in safe rooms. An unkillable monster patrols the halls looking for any sign of you. The shotgun is even locked in a room that requires you to replace it with another item. So yeah, even though this game is different in a lot of ways, that DNA that makes Resident Evil is still there. And I have loved this franchise for a very long time. When I was younger, I played 4, Code Veronica, and Outbreak on my PS2. 5 was the first game I ever played on PS3. Then when I was in college, I bought my first ever console just for myself, a PS4, and the first game I got for it was Resident Evil 7. I love this franchise. I used to, when my mom left to work, I would go on YouTube on this shitty old like touchscreen phone and type in Resident Evil full movie, and I would watch a full gameplay of the original PS1 games. I've always showed up for this franchise, and you know what? It's never really let me down, and 7 is just a truly special game. So let's just get back to talking about it. As Ethan traverses through the house, he reaches the basement where things are much different. The floors, walls, and even ceilings are covered with a black mold-like substance that hasn't been present anywhere else. As he tries to leave the room, something crawls out of the mold. The game's main enemy type, tall and seemingly fully made of the same black mold-like substance it came from, with no real identifiable features other than these jagged teeth. Now, about an hour into the game, the primary enemy has finally been introduced. Once again, a ballsy move. These are the Molded. Resident Evil is known for its wide variety of enemies across its games. There's the classic zombies from the original trilogy, or the terrifying Crimson Heads from the GameCube remake of 1, the body horror monstrosities of the Ganados in RE4, and even guys with fucking guns in RE5 and 6. Sadly, I think the Molded fall short of Resident Evil greatness for a variety of reasons. First off, I don't find them very scary. Maybe that's just me. I mean, I guess it objectively is just me. It's an opinion. But the amorphous, like, glob bodies just don't do it for me. There's no iconic sound design with them either. The original zombies had that creepy groan. The Ganados yelled at you in Spanish. It would have been cool if the Molded just started speaking Chinese or something. I think I'd like that.
朋友是一个坚韧不拔的纪录片，在香港这座城市的设置。主演钱和乐。
There also isn't a huge variety of enemy types. There's the basic Molded that just shuffles around and grabs you. This big arm blade one that has more health and does more damage. The most effective one you'll run into is the crawler that runs around on all fours and jumps at you. And finally, there's a big blobby one that can take dozens of rounds of ammo to the head and will just projectile vomit everywhere when you're in range. But you only see like 3 of these in the game. All 4 of these characters have unique designs, so you'll never get them mixed up, but they never pack any surprises, and I'm just not a fan of the overall across-the-board design with them. Once you're like an hour and a half into this game, roughly, you've seen each variant except for the big one, but he only appears at the end of the game, and it's not like there's this super tanky chainsaw one that will chase after you, or if you damage one enough, their head will pop open, revealing there's some kind of ungodly horror. They kind of just appear and walk after you, and if you get too far away from their spawn, they just melt back into goo and wait for you at the spawn point. Not to say they aren't a threat, they definitely are. They can be pretty tanky and aggressive. I'd honestly recommend playing this like a true Resident Evil fan and just run past them whenever possible, preserving your ammo for boss fights. They just, personally, they don't work for me, and I know there's mixed opinions on them in the community. I just personally, I keep saying that, not a huge fan. Back in the basement, Ethan kills the Molded that spawn in and try to attack him, and can eventually even get a shotgun that helps bring them down much faster. Fortunately, down here in the basement, Jack is nowhere to be found, so it's not all bad. As Ethan fights his way through the basement, he enters an area called the processing room, where he locates one of the dog heads needed to escape. Before he can take it, Jack picks it up, not seeing Ethan, and begins to speak to himself, once again delivering important dialogue to understand the story.
I was gonna be your father. Now she says he will be her father. No.
Ethan goes into the next room and sees the dog head hanging from a hook. As he goes to grab it, he's attacked by Jack, who knocks him into a fight pit below before jumping in with him. This is the most metal moment in the entire series, maybe in all of gaming. Jack Baker picks up what I can only describe as a giant pair of scissors made from like 2 chainsaws as Ethan grabs his own chainsaw, and the two have a battle to the death in a cage surrounded by hanging bodies. Eventually, the damage becomes too much for Jack, who explodes, leaving a bottom half that takes a few steps forward before falling to the ground. It's fucking awesome. Taking the last Doghead emblem, Ethan is able to escape the main Baker house, now gaining access to a backyard area where his attention is immediately drawn to an abandoned trailer. If the player chooses to inspect this area, we learn that this is where Zoe lives. An old picture can be found of the Baker family, including Zoe and Lucas's children, with the words, "It's too late for them," scribbled on the back. In another note, she says her body is feeling weirder and weirder, and soon she'll be like the rest of the family. She says that if she tries to run, she'll die, and blames someone referred to only as her for everything that happened. Most surprisingly, we learn that whoever her is, she arrived at the Baker house with Mia. As Ethan tries to leave the trailer, the phone behind him rings. He answers it and gets new orders from Zoe.
You made it. You're the first I've ever seen make it this far.
So what is it you need me to do? Is it gonna help me get out of here?
Yes. Now listen carefully, Ethan. My family and our bodies are contaminated. I can't leave the property unless I get it out. And the same goes for Mia.
Is there a way to get it out?
We need the serum. It should clear whatever this stuff is out of the body. As long as you're not too far gone.
Alright, so where is it?
If I knew where one was, I'd already be long gone. But I have a feeling my mother has hidden some inside the old house somewhere.
So if we get this thing, I can help Mia and we can get out of here?
Right. And so can I. The old house is near the water. You can't miss it.
Alright.
I just hope you can handle my mother.
Your mother?
Be careful. They'll be looking for you.
Ethan makes his way to the flooded old house we saw in Mia's tape, only this time now covered in hives that cause Ethan to be swarmed by bugs. Large letters written on the wall warn, "She's upstairs, don't go up." Upon entering the basement, Ethan finds Mia, but the two are separated by a fence. Mia says she's always wanted to tell Ethan the truth, but before she can explain, Lucas grabs her and drags her to another room, telling Ethan to come after her. Ethan runs back upstairs, but encounters Marguerite, who will now stalk Ethan through the halls, similar to Jack Baker. Marguerite is much less aggressive than Jack. I feel like her AI gets stuck in hallways sometimes, but if she does see you, she'll send like a little swarm of flies at you and you just shoot by the sky. Now equipped with a flamethrower, likely designed by Lucas, Ethan tries to head back upstairs, where he's thrown down a well by Marguerite. Ethan manages to kill her, and she falls into the well with him, crawling for the lantern she always carries as she melts into a fucking puddle of goo. Entering the door she was guarding, Ethan finds a metal briefcase. Inside, a shriveled corpse of what appears to be a child, along with directions to craft a serum using what is referred to as a D-series arm and head. As he starts to continue exploring, he receives another call from Zoe.
Well, did you find a serum?
I just got done dealing with your mom and her fucking bugs. Wish you could have warned me.
Sorry about that. What about the serum?
I haven't found any, but I did find out we need to make one. A D-series head and an arm. This can't be right.
A head? I think I have that around here somewhere.
You do?
I don't know about the arm, though. Have you searched the whole house?
No, not yet. I still need to check the second floor here.
Alright. Check it out. Meet me at the trailer if you find it.
On his way to find the D-series arm, Ethan encounters a locked door tied to a scale. On one end hangs a lantern identical to Marguerite's, on the other end, an empty hook. Doubling back to retrieve the lantern from the well, Ethan sees Marguerite's elongated arm reaching out from a tunnel to grab it and drag the lantern away. And may I be the first to say, fuck no. Ethan runs down the tunnel and finds himself at the greenhouse. With no sign of Marguerite, Ethan goes upstairs when she mutates into a giant humanoid spider, breaks through the window, and tries to drag him through. For this boss fight, Marguerite will climb through holes in the walls and floors to try and sneak up on Ethan, even giving birth to insects that will attack him when he's left alone for too long. A good boss fight, but all in all, not too hard. Upon pumping her full of lead, she'll eventually turn into a kind of like marble statue and crumble into pieces, allowing Ethan to take the lantern off her corpse. Now able to unlock the door, Ethan has to traverse a series of rooms covered in old dolls and other children's items. He can even find a child's drawing depicting a stick figure of a little girl surrounded by dozens of other stick figures with the words "My Family" written all around. The name sign on the back reads Evelyn. On in here? That's what I'm afraid of. My Family. That's an incredible work of art. This part of the house looks as though it was converted to accommodate a young girl, but at some point, things just went very wrong. Rooms are filled with mountains of dolls, doors will open on their own, things will move without anyone touching them. Very creepy stuff. Before we go any further, I'm going to cover one of the DLC stories called Bedroom. This was released as part of the banned footage pack that continues Clancy Jarvis' story, which takes place before the start of the game, but I kind of have to jam these in randomly because Clancy's last tape is found during the game, but the DLC tapes can be accessed from the menu at any time, so there's no canon place to insert them during the story, and if I front-loaded this video by talking about all the DLCs before I got to the actual game, I think more people would click off. So I won't be covering the Nightmare DLC tape because that shit ain't canon. It's just a challenge mode. I don't care. This story takes place after the kitchen demo where Mia killed Peter and dragged Clancy away. We see that he has now woken up, tied down in a bedroom we haven't yet encountered. Marguerite enters the room with a tray of the same food she tried feeding Ethan towards the start of the game, and some of her dialogue once again gives some more clues towards the truth of the story.
Our daughter really likes you. She wants you to be her big brother. Oh, now don't get too excited. Don't jump up and down just yet. You want to be part of this family, you gotta eat like family.
She leaves Clancy alone, and he immediately tries to escape. The story here is pretty light, but this is probably my favorite tape in the banned footage pack. Clancy has to solve a series of puzzles before eventually causing noise that draws Marguerite's attention back to the room. Players are given a few seconds to put everything back exactly how they found it and get back into bed before she returns, otherwise she'll get fucking pissed. Each time she returns, she gets more and more upset that he refuses to eat the food until Clancy eventually finds a way out. After accessing a secret trap door underneath the bed, he stabs her in the throat and makes a run for it, leading into our next tape that we'll cover a little bit later. Ethan finds a hidden room in the back of the attic area of the house where he discovers Marguerite's shrine mentioned in some earlier notes. Once again, a mummified, shriveled corpse of a little girl, this one slightly older and much more disgusting and disturbing. She reaches out an arm with a note labeled D002 that Ethan pulls free from the elbow. Another phone call from Zoe tells him to meet her in the trailer where she has the D-series head, allowing them to make the serum and escape. When he arrives at the trailer, Zoe is nowhere to be seen. Instead, he receives another phone call.
Now where the hell are you? You know, never mind. We only need the head and you've got it. This is gonna help me and me, right?
Hey, buddy. I thought you should know. I decided that Zoe needed a timeout. She and Mia are here with me. And they're keeping each other company.
Just let them both go. What do you need them for?
That's family business, Ethan, and not your concern. Understand? Now, if you want the head, feel free to come by any time and I'll give it to you. But only if you participate in a little activity I've put together just for you.
What activity?
Oh, I know you're excited, but don't worry. It's not going anywhere. First step I need you to take, partner, is for you to take a peek inside the fridge in the trailer there.
Fuck you!
Oh, come on now. Don't be like that. You want to have some fun, don't you? Now, look in the fridge.
Inside the fridge, Ethan finds the deputy's head, which appeared to be mutating into one of the mold monsters before it was removed. A note attached to the back tells Ethan to return to the dissection room where he last encountered Jack and inspect the deputy's body that he saw earlier. As he makes his way there, Ethan encounters more of the molded monsters and the Baker family grandma, who, as always, just watches him silently from her wheelchair. Above the deputy's body is a note telling him to stick his hand down his throat. He does this and draws out the snake key, which now gives him access to the last rooms of the Baker house. Ethan unlocks a door on the top floor and enters the same bedroom that we just saw in the Clancy DLC tape. If you played that already and have a good memory, you can kind of cheat past the clock puzzle and access the trapdoor, going down the same path we last saw Clancy. I guess now is a good time to go over 21, the last banned footage tape covering Clancy's story. At some point, after escaping down the tunnel, Clancy was captured by Lucas, who has him tied down to a poker table in a dark basement room, his left hand strapped to some kind of device. I don't know how to describe it. It's the contraption from SpongeBob. Across from him sits another man with a black bag over his head, also strapped to the same device. A series of TV screens turn on, and Lucas explains that the two are trapped in a game. Obviously, they're playing blackjack. You may be familiar with this, but in case you're not, each player draws a random card, trying to get as close to all their numbers adding up to 21 without going over, and losing a bet will cost you a finger. That part usually doesn't happen in real life, but Lucas promises to let the winner go. Clancy's opponent is a man named Hoffman. I assume this is a reference to Hoffman from the Saw movies, considering this is kind of a Saw-ass trap and Lucas is a Saw-ass villain. Hoffman has a wife and kids, so he's playing for keeps, but Clancy has that dog in him and, that indomitable human spirit. I guess the canon ending to this DLC has Clancy surviving at least the first round without losing any bets, because he has all his fingers in the next tape we see. Once the first round is over and Hoffman loses all his fingers, he still demands another round. This time, a repurposed electric chair will zap the loser until one fucking dies. I guess there's no canon way for this play except for Clancy winning in the very end and killing Hoffman. In this round, trump cards are introduced. You can play these whenever you want to gain an advantage in the round, but be warned, the game basically cheats with the opponent getting an alarming amount of get out of jail free cards. Every time I put on a trump card to trap them, they're like, by the way, I have this counter that just erases what you put down. Good luck. It's extremely annoying. I feel like it's cheating, but I guess there's technically no way to prove it's Schrodinger's 21. But either way, eventually Hoffman does lose. This obviously isn't enough for Lucas, who uses the electric charge to puppet Hoffman's body and forces Clancy into one last round. This time, the loser gets their face ripped open by a giant saw device created by Lucas. When the player is about to win the final bet, Lucas cheats. It's his scripted moment. He puts down two trump cards, one that gives him a perfect draw, and one that raises all bets by 100, causing Clancy to be ripped apart regardless. The only way to win this is by holding onto a trump card that forces Lucas to draw another card and make him go over the limit of 21. As you may have guessed, even winning here isn't the end, as Lucas grabs Clancy and drags him off to the next game, ending the tape. This is a fun DLC in my opinion. It's kind of frustrating, especially when it throws that massive curveball at the end where it cheats, and when it cheats with the trump cards. But I mean, blackjack is fun, and watching people get cut off, their fingers cut off, might be fun for you. So if you like that, I'd recommend giving it a shot. Ethan's search for two key cards leads him to Lucas's old bedroom, where a note reveals that as a child, Lucas trapped a school bully in the attic by luring him to a fake birthday party, letting him die of dehydration. Trophies around the room also show that growing up, Lucas was gifted robotics and engineering, which is why he was able to design that flamethrower you found, and also a grenade launcher you could optionally find around this time in the game. After retrieving both key cards, Ethan makes his way back to the trailer, where he plays a tape labeled Happy Birthday. In this tape, Lucas drags Clancy into a dark room where he has to solve a series of puzzles that ultimately allow him to light a candle on a birthday cake, but it fucking explodes, and it's not good. Along the way, every solution injures Clancy more and more. Retrieving this pen causes him to get stabbed, and an animatronic clown provides an answer to a locked combination by carving it into his arm. Eventually, he successfully lights a candle, but it triggers an explosion that engulfs the room in flames, causing Clancy to burn to death. That guy really went through a whole lot for nothing. But the good news is that Ethan has now seen what happened and is able to avoid the pitfalls that caused Clancy his life. Fighting his way through the barn and a gauntlet of molded monsters that Lucas has laid out for him, Ethan makes his way to the Happy Birthday room. He's ordered to leave all his gear behind and enter the room, which he does. When Ethan is able to complete the room without dying, Lucas throws in a whole ass stick of dynamite, Looney Tunes style, with a timer and everything, but Ethan reacts quickly and uses the dynamite to blow through a wall and escape. This new entrance leads to the room Lucas was previously using to monitor Ethan, with Lucas having just left. On a screen, Ethan sees Mia and Zoe chained up to a wall. As he leaves to go free them, he gets one last call from Lucas. Oh, hello.
The fuck do you want?
You? Dead? Guess that's not in the cards. Not yet.
Lucky me. Look, unless you have any more surprises up your sleeve, I suggest you...
Now that would be telling, Ethan. And I don't do spoilers.
While we don't see Lucas again in the main game, we will be covering the rest of his story in the DLC later. Ethan finds the D-Series head in the room, then goes to free Mia and Zoe. He cuts Zoe free, and she somehow is able to make the serum in the corner. Not sure how she did that. There was nothing there. She just took the head and an arm into a corner and created a Minecraft. Just made a needle and synthesized it. I don't get it. Before anyone could take it, a giant house-sized slug monster thing attacks. This is the final mutated form of Jack Baker. Zoe and Mia get separated, leaving Ethan to fight him on his own. In true Resident Evil fashion, Jack is covered in giant glowing orange eyes that Ethan is able to shoot, but even that isn't enough to put him down fully. Zoe tells Ethan to use the serum on Jack, which he does, and it causes him to disintegrate, similar to how Marguerite did. Now left with only one serum, Ethan is left with the choice of who to inject. Mia, his wife, who has been lying to him and tried to murder him while possessed, or Zoe, who has largely just been a pretty chill, helpful person. I guess there's some discourse on who to pick in the community. I personally am partial to Zoe, even without learning the backstory of the game. It's very clear that Mia has some kind of involvement leading everything that's happened here to happen. However, what the game doesn't tell you is that this lone single decision will lock you into the good or bad ending of the game. Choosing Zoe is the non-canon bad ending. Mia is pretty hurt that you didn't pick her. As you leave, Zoe tries to explain how all this happened, but before she can, she's turned to dust, similar to Jack and Marguerite.
It's her. Evelyn doesn't want us to leave. No! Evie! Please!
Zoe?
Evie!
Zoe? Zoe!
My knowledge, this is the first time we hear the name Evelyn spoken out loud, beside a few notes that can be found during gameplay. I think this is kind of bullshit, because the whole point of the cure was to remove the infection from Zoe, which would have prevented her from being killed. Choosing Zoe also forces you to officially kill Mia, meaning both women end up dead if you pick Zoe. However, the true canon ending has you pick Mia. Zoe is upset and Ethan promises to send help. However, she says not to bother since she'll be dead before anyone can arrive.
But Zoe...
Go! Both of you just go!
Come with us. I'm sure there's someone who can help.
This is not home. Apparently I belong here.
I'll send help.
Don't bother. There won't be anyone left to help!
The two leave on a small boat and Ethan tries to question Mia on what happened. However, she doesn't remember. Whatever happened to her here has messed up her memory completely. As they continue to float down the river, they eventually pass the wreckage of an overturned tanker ship when the raft is overturned by this mold thing. You wake up by the boat, but when looking into a puddle, realize you are controlling Mia and not Ethan. She moves ahead and begins exploring the abandoned ship. However, she's left without any weapons to defend herself. She finds Ethan, but before she can wake him up, he's taken away by the mold. She advances to the ship and has quick flashbacks of her on the same boat when it was functional and clean and not rusted into pieces. A flashback also shows two crewmates panicking below deck, saying that something has gotten out and is killing everybody, and they go out to look for weapons. Mia explores more of the ship, crawling over dead crewmates and seeing a word scribbled into the wall. She's inside me, she's inside everyone. Her final flashback shows a crewmate encountering a little girl. When the flashback ends, the same girl is in front of her. Mia asks who she is and chases after her. The little girl tells Mia she promised they could be a family before Mia finds her in a room with a TV. This last tape answers most of the questions regarding what happened to cause all this. The tape is labeled Test Subject E001, similar to the label of D002 on the arm used to craft the serum. Mia is back on the ship well before it ever capsized. She's with a man named Alan, who's recovering from an injury.
Alan, we are so...
He tells Mia he must have been infected during the attack, and he has little time left, blaming himself for her getting out. The girl didn't attack Mia due to an imprinting protocol planted in her mind. Equipped with a tracker, Mia sets out to find Evelyn, officially identifying her for the first time. A nearby note shows Mia's orders along with Alan. The two were tasked with transporting Evelyn to Central America for safekeeping, as her current location was compromised. To maintain cover, they were told to act as Evelyn's parents while on mission. Mia finds Evelyn in the lower deck, where we learn that she believes Mia truly is her mom and wants to create a family for herself, no longer wanting to live in a lab and instead have a normal house.
Are you mad at me, Mom? Evie, I'm not mad. Wait, what did you call me?
I don't want to live in the lab anymore. I want a house. And I want you to be my mommy.
Okay, Evie. I'll be your mommy. Just come back with me. Right now, okay? Where are you, Evie?
I think I know where she is. Oh, hello.
Evie,
Okay.
wait.
Evelyn runs off and continues spreading the mold across the ship, overwhelming it with monsters. Mia crosses paths with Alan, who is tracking Evelyn down himself. She tells him that without her treatments, Evelyn is beginning to deteriorate, and then this happens.
Well, it's a good thing we're already dying.
I think you're faking, pal. You look fine. A bit of a sickly demeanor, but
She trusts you.
apart from that...
That little bitch, she never trusted me. Wait. Evie, no, Evie!
Alan,
I didn't mean to
listen.
call you that.
She's
Evie,
trying to
I didn't
take
mean-
control. You have to fight her.
That felt very forced even saying that, buddy. This one might be on you.
Evelyn, stop! Stop right now!
Don't touch me, don't!
That was some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in a Resident Evil game. Mia wakes up infected with the mold and stumbles to a computer where she sends Ethan the message that we saw at the start of the game. Mia encounters Evelyn in a hallway and gets thrown out a window where we see the entire ship going up in flames, sinking, being torn apart by the mold and a storm that they happen to cross paths with. Mia falls into the waters where it seems that she probably fucking drowns. Back in the present, Evelyn asks if they can be a family again, but a pissed off Mia just tells her to go fuck herself and then goes on a hunt to save Ethan. She finds him on the bottom deck and goes to set him free. However, before she can, Evelyn tells her that she needs her for something. We switch back to Ethan's perspective, who has a vision of himself back in the living room of the baker's house with Jack and Zoe, which is where we get the last pieces of this game story.
Ethan? Ethan? Hey, shh, I know. I'm not gonna hurt you. Hell, I never would have if I could have helped you.
What do you mean?
I'm no killer, son. Neither is Marguerite, nor my boy Lucas, or even Zoe here. That girl, Evelyn, she did this.
What the hell is she? No, what did she do to you?
She infected us with her gift. That's what she calls it. I found her near a busted out tank in the bayou. Everything changed after that.
So she infects you and then she takes control?
No. Not exactly, son. She just... She forces her way into your mind, your soul. You can't fight back. You are connected to her, and you can't resist the urge to... Oh, you're a different person after that.
Just like Mia. So Mia sent me that message because of Evelyn.
Listen, the girl just wants a family of her own. She's the key. All right? You find her, and you stop her. Ethan, free my family. Please.
I can now fully break down the whole story using all the DLCs, stuff from previous games, and the notes that are found throughout the campaign. The Connections is an international criminal organization, kind of like some shit out of a Bond movie. They do all sorts of evil stuff, but focus on bioweapon development. Bioweapons are the most prominent threat in the Resident Evil universe. Like, that's their 9/11. It is the fear that is in the back of everyone's mind. Raccoon City is the Twin Towers. For anyone who doesn't know, Raccoon City was infected by zombies, which are bioweapons, and they got fucking nuked. The Connections were attempting to create a new weapon The main goal of this weapon was to infect an entire population with the mold, then send in a living bioweapon capable of controlling all infected individuals. There were several series made while trying to perfect this bioweapon. The A, B, and C series aren't really covered in the game, but the arm and head used to make the serum come from Dolores and Dahlia in the D series. However, every attempt was branded a failure until the E series was created. The first attempt, Evelyn, was a success, and no others were made after. The BSAA is a counter-bioterrorism agency backed by the UN. Chris Redfield, one of Resident Evil's main characters, works for this organization. The BSAA launched a raid on a Connections lab, forcing them to move Evelyn by boat and assigning Mia and Alan to watch over her. However, during the trip, the boat was hit by a massive hurricane and Evelyn's containment was broken. As she began to deteriorate, she started infecting the ship and crew. Evelyn is not a real person. She is 100% mold, therefore, she has never seen a life outside of a lab. She began to develop an obsession with family, wanting to make Mia her mom. After the boat crash, Mia did drown, but was kept alive by the mold, which provides impressive regeneration abilities, which are what we saw in Jack Baker and Lucas Baker, and to a lesser degree, I guess, Marguerite. What happens next is kind of up in the air, since there are some small differences between the in-game lore and the DLC tape Daughters. According to the in-game lore, Evelyn and Mia, who I assume was being controlled by Evelyn, arrived at the Baker's house looking for help. Over a period of a week or two, Evelyn slowly infected the Baker family. We even see in a note that Marguerite went to the doctors to see what was wrong with her before the infection fully took over. In the Daughters DLC, you play as Zoe the night of the storm. Her father Jack returns home with Evelyn, who's unconscious and covered in mold. They mistake it for oil from the ship. The family brought Mia back a while ago, and she is passed out in Zoe's trailer in the backyard. As Zoe tries to help clean up Evelyn, this happens.
They're mine now.
What?
She then finds Lucas unconscious downstairs, and when she heads upstairs, she finds her mom acting weird.
Mama, is that you?
Zoe, come look. Come see her gift. Look at all the pretties my little girl is giving me! Kiss me, lover!
What the hell? Get to the garage! Get some rope! Go now!
When Zoe returns upstairs, things aren't really much better.
Stop it!
Don't you worry. It's a whole lot worse than it looks. Cleanliness is next to godliness, and your mother's pretty fucking close to meeting him right now. She wants me to do this. I have to show her how to hold him. She wants us all to show her our love.
Daddy!
You don't want to disappoint her now, do you? We can't do that.
What are you talking about?
Your new sister, Eve.
While escaping, Zoe sees Jack dragging Lucas away to hand him over to Evelyn for infection. She makes her way to the trailer where Mia is unconscious beside the D-series container, along with a note she wrote for the Bakers telling them to forget they ever saw her, to avoid Evelyn, and how to make a cure if she managed to infect them. Then this happens.
I think I fell asleep.
Well, now, look who has decided to join us.
Wake up and smell the shitty coffee, Zoe.
Lucas.
You okay, dear? There was a lot of excitement from that storm last night.
I'm fine. I had the weirdest dream last night. There was this little girl.
Well, now, after breakfast, Lucas and I are going to have a look around and see if the storm did any damage. You two should have a look around the house.
That's a good idea, Jack. You remember the last hurricane? We thought we were lucky, and the next time it rained, there was a mess for sure.
Hello, sister.
A lot of people are confused as to what Zoe did on the property for the next 3 years. Like, why wasn't she infected and turned evil, or caught, or killed in all that time? I think Zoe was able to resist the infection because she wasn't fully, I guess, infected. But since she was willing to mostly play along with the family, Evelyn didn't kill her. She spent the next few years trying to find a way to escape, but since she always failed and really couldn't leave without the cure, they were content to just let her live in the trailer out back and treat her like the problem child in the family. I also feel like people overlook the fact that Mia is kind of fucking evil. She basically worked for Resident Evil's like Al-Qaeda, then caused 9/11. Sure, the Baker incident was an accident, but her plan was to help the Connection sell a bioweapon to the most evil motherfuckers on Earth so they could kill thousands of people. But she's like, oops, Evelyn made me stab Ethan, that's the only bad thing I did. And the fan base just sort of moved on, so I guess we will too. Learning all this though, I guess I don't understand why we had to get the mold monsters. The mold virus infects people and turns them into brainwashed murder machines with healing abilities. I think getting a bunch of psychotic zombie-like enemies that are less powerful than the Bakers would have been more interesting visually. I know that the molded were created by the Bakers, experimenting on people using the mold, but this was all Evelyn's plan. In the room, in the old house, the picture we talked about earlier that was drawn by Evelyn shows her surrounded by figures meant to represent the molded, calling them her family. Not a huge deal, but if there was one thing I would change about this game, this would be it, just that, nothing else. Back in the story, Mia frees Ethan from the mold and gives him samples of Evelyn's cells to finally put her down. She pushes him through a door and locks herself inside as Evelyn regains control of her, the mold trapping her in the room. Ethan leaves the boat and ends up in a small shack. Here he finds a radio. Some kind of military force has entered the property and are currently searching the Baker house. They state that somehow Lucas was sending messages to a third party and was last seen heading for an abandoned salt mine nearby. Ethan rushes to the mine and takes the elevator down where he finds a lab. In the lab is Lucas's laptop. On it, he reads some emails between Lucas and the Connections, the people who employed Mia. Lucas thanks them for breaking him free from Evelyn's control, allowing him to pretend to still be under it. He also says that Mia has been stuck halfway between reality and Evelyn's control, and that he was the one who locked her up at the start of the game due to her insane violent tendencies that constantly got out of control. The lab was researching a neurotoxin to kill Evelyn that Ethan is able to complete using the cell samples given to him by Mia. After this, Ethan just goes on a tear. Like, shit stops being a horror game for like 30 minutes and you just mow down dozens of mold monsters until Ethan finally finds himself back at the guest house. As he advances through, he has flashbacks to previous scenes, even the moment where Mia chainsawed his hand off, and we see that Evelyn was ordering her to do it. Ethan finds Evelyn in the attic and injects her with the neurotoxin, revealing that Evelyn was the old Baker grandma the entire time. This revelation doesn't really hit as hard as the other ones in the game, I think mainly because the grandma is kind of forgettable. I do think it's cool that this is revealed at the start of the game, if you're paying attention. In the very opening, when Mia disappears right before she attacks you, you can find a picture of the grandma, and if you flip it around, E001 is written on the back, and throughout the game you can find other pictures of Evelyn with the E001 label on them, and in Lucas's emails he mentions that Evelyn is getting wrinkles and gray skin, so it's pretty cool that this is set up beforehand. Killing Evelyn actually doesn't feel good at all, because she just thinks she's a child that wants a family and doesn't understand why everyone hates her. Depressing stuff, Capcom. But even with the neurotoxin, Evelyn's still got some fight in her as she mutates into a giant mold monster, breaking out of the house and smacking Ethan around. Before Ethan is killed, a high-powered pistol is thrown down to him, and a man calls out to him telling him to use it. With Evelyn dead, a team of soldiers rope down and check on him, with the leader revealing himself to be the GOAT, Chris Redfield. When this was revealed, it caused a lot of confusion with the fans because he looked super different from every previous version of Chris, especially the one we had last seen in 6 and the iconic design in 5. Ethan is taken away on a helicopter. He's reunited with Mia, who is rescued from the ship. And on one last surprising note, we learn that the people here to save the day and secure the bioweapon is Umbrella. For anyone who doesn't know, Umbrella is like the primary force behind basically everything evil in the Resident Evil universe. They were a bioengineering company who created several viruses that caused small zombie outbreaks, resulting in the town Raccoon City being fucking nuked. It is a name that does not inspire confidence. The story of this game isn't over. Capcom was nice enough to drop a free DLC expansion called Not a Hero that took place immediately after the events of the story. This was really awesome of them to do. It's pretty sizable. It's a whole new story with new weapons, new combat mechanics, and a couple new enemy types. They easily could have charged like 10 or 15 bucks for this and made a good amount of cash. The story opens with Chris watching as Ethan and Mia are taken away before he decides to go after Lucas himself. Chris still works the BSAA, but they are currently operating alongside the newly formed Blue Umbrella. This is touched on more throughout the story, but I'll get it out of the way right now. After Umbrella collapsed, several key members decided to form a new company in an attempt to make up for Umbrella's sins. The new Umbrella company operates similar to the BSAA, tracking down and putting a stop to bioweapon activities. Chris Redfield understandably doesn't trust them, but is working alongside them because he has orders. Chris plays like a freaking beast. His guns do way more damage, and when he stuns an enemy, he can deliver a punch to wipe them out like he can in 5 and 6, and I guess like Leon can in 4. As he fights through the mines, his handler tells him that Lucas was doing experiments on the mutamycete, a term that was used a few times throughout the story and will be important later in my next video on Village. Chris eventually finds 2 soldiers, one seemingly dead, but the other has a bomb strapped to his neck. Before Chris can get any answers, the dead body jumps up and straps a bomb to his wrist, revealing himself to be Lucas Baker. Lucas blows off the other soldier's head and tells Chris not to follow him, so Chris keeps going after him. Finding the next soldier strapped to a bar in a cell, Chris goes to find the key, but once he does, he's attacked by a new enemy type. This giant mold monster is immune to any damage, forcing Chris to retreat and deal with it later. Chris goes back to the soldier, but as you expect, it ends up being just another trap. This time a buzzsaw decapitates the soldier, and Chris has to use his gas mask to get out of the cell alive, as it's flooded with mutamycete spores. As he continues his search, Chris finds ramrod ammo, the same kind of bullets in the gun he passed to Ethan that he used to finish off Evelyn. These prevent regeneration and allow Chris to go back and kill the new enemy type he encountered earlier. He finds the last soldier in a room covered in laser trip mines and has to sneak around to save him. He manages to deactivate all of them, but before they can escape, Lucas activates the bomb collar and blows his head off, which shouldn't come as a surprise. Everyone that we've tried to save so far has just fucking died. That trend wouldn't stop now. Fed up with him, Lucas activates Chris's bomb collar, but for some reason is really nice and sets it on a long timer. Chris finds liquid nitrogen canisters and uses them to freeze the bomb, allowing him to pull it off and throw it away seconds before it explodes. He continues his hunt and ends up in this... I don't know what to describe it as. It's like this big vault, like a big room that seems to be quite important. It's at the back of the mine. I guess it's the entrance to the lab, but it's being used for storage. I don't know. Chris fights off waves of molded before Lucas activates this fire purge system that vaporizes the entire room. Chris manages to crawl into the vents and makes his way to the lab to find Lucas, who once again believes he's dead. We get some more answers here. After curing him, the Connections built Lucas this lab and gave him a team of scientists to research Evelyn and the mold, but he eventually had them all murdered by the mold monsters. Chris finds Lucas once more and chases him to a large server room where he is betraying the Connections by selling his data on Evelyn to a mysterious buyer. As Chris goes to stop the data transfer, he is attacked by Lucas, who he shoots with a ramrod round. This causes Lucas to mutate into a monster similar to the way Jack Baker did. Chris kills him, then shoots the servers, preventing the data from being sent, and the story ends. I'll just tell you now, there is currently no answer on who Lucas was sending the data to. It was not answered in Village, and unfortunately, it seems like Requiem is telling a whole different story. So, I don't know. However, I do have some faith because the villain we've seen in the trailers, Gideon, is a former Umbrella guy, so hopefully we'll get some more answers and that'll tie in. Maybe he's the one who's buying the data. I have some theories, but I'm not going to talk about it until we get to the next game. The final story DLC for Resident Evil 7 takes place a few days after the events of Not a Hero. We see that after Ethan left Zoe at the baker's house, she was turned into that statue form by Evelyn, kind of how she did when she died, if you picked her to cure. But instead of falling apart and crumbling into a bunch of chunks, she just crystallizes. She turns into Elsa. I'm not entirely sure why this happened to her, but we know the mold has different effects on people, and also she wasn't fully under the mold control, so I guess that's why. Zoe's body is found by Umbrella soldiers who are looking over her, and we're introduced to a new character, Joe Baker, the uncle of the Baker family. Confused by what happened, he knocks out the soldiers, bringing Zoe and one of them to his cabin. Joe is aware of who Umbrella is and understandably believes they're involved in the recent events, even if they claim not to be. The soldier tells Joe Zoe can be cured and that the antidote can be found not far from their location. Joe sets out to find it, and we get a really cool change to the gameplay because Joe doesn't use any guns or knives. Instead, your left and right triggers are tied to punches that you can chain together for different combo moves. Joe is a fucking beast. This entire DLC just has you ripping all the molded apart with your bare hands after spending an entire game as Ethan where guns felt like hitting them with a pillow. Joe doesn't even use green herbs like every other Resident Evil character. He just grabs centipedes and worms from under rocks and from in trees and just eats them to restore his health. This is the life of an average Louisiana resident. So after beating his way through some monsters, Joe finds the cure on a dead Umbrella soldier's body and heads back to administer it. Unfortunately, the antidote wasn't full and Joe has to set out to the Umbrella camp to get more. Before he can, something breaks through the wall and pulls the Umbrella soldier through, tossing his body back to the window, split in half. Joe picks up Zoe when some fucking Cthulhu monster breaks through the wall and tries to take her. Joe holds on and the two sail off in a small boat. He sets down Zoe somewhere safe and fights through an abandoned Umbrella base where he once again encounters the Cthulhu monster, putting it down after a brief fight. He finds an old rusted boat where a machine was set up to synthesize the cure. Upon retrieving it, he is once again grabbed by the Cthulhu monster, who is referred to in-game as Swamp Man, and the two have a boxing match in the lower levels of a half-sunken ship. Yeah, it's fucking badass. Joe wins the fight, ripping off Swamp Man's head and throwing it away, going to find Zoe to administer the cure. Before he can, the Swamp Man appears once again, and this time successfully takes Zoe away. Joe follows them in his boat, but loses sight of them in the mist. After beating through another army of molded monsters like the fucking Giga Chad that he is, Joe finds an abandoned old church where Zoe is on display by the altar. As Joe goes to help, he's grabbed by the Swamp Man. I have only one complaint for this DLC, which is that it really does feel like it never deviates from the story path of Joe interacts with something, then Swamp Man grabs him from behind and throws him away. The two have a quick fight where Joe rips off the fleshy mask connected to his face, revealing Swamp Man to be Jack Baker, who somehow survived his encounter with Ethan. He throws Joe into a coffin, then shoves him into the river as Joe tries convincing his brother to stop. Joe washes up in front of the Baker house where he overhears that Jack is torn through the Umbrella forces. Joe finds an experimental power glove meant to help lift heavy objects, but he uses it to turn his left hand into Hellboy's fucking Hand of Doom and just annihilates anything that gets in his way with supercharged punches. This is one of my favorite DLCs of all time. It's just the coolest shit ever. The music is it's amazing. It gets you hyped up to feel like you're going on this giant epic mission. And you feel the weight of every punch. There's this one part where you even find this like clay art piece that Zoe made of her and her family, and it's like this motivation for Joe to keep going, like a reminder of what he's fighting for. He has this big showdown with Jack in the main hall of the house, and you really have to let him have it because he's a fucking tank in this part of the game. Eventually, Joe gets him down, and we get one of the coolest finishing kills I've seen in forever.
This is farewell from the family, brother.
Then he uses the antidote and cures Zoe as Chris and some Umbrella soldiers storm the house. Chris orders the soldiers to stand down, and they take Zoe for observation. Back at the Umbrella base, Zoe has mostly returned to normal, only with white hair now. Chris hands her his phone, and she gets to thank Ethan for sending help like he promised to in the story, and that caps off the entire story of Resident Evil Biohazard. This ended up being more of a story dump recap than I originally envisioned it to be, but I'm just so excited for 9, so I wanted to take some time and talk about one of my favorite games in the series. And I think what I said at the start of the video is true, that we're never going to see another Resident Evil game like this again. So many things had to happen just for Capcom to even want to make this game, and even more things had to fall in place for this game to work. And we're in a new era of gaming, an era of calculated risk. Biohazard was made because the franchise had gone so ridiculously off the rails, it needed something drastic to come along and just wipe the slate clean. And they gave us something that, while still very familiar, was largely an entirely new type of game. Resident Evil is Capcom's biggest moneymaker. It sold more copies than their second and third biggest IPs combined, those being Street Fighter and Monster Hunter. Street Fighter's the third biggest, surprisingly. I thought it was way bigger. And I just can't see a studio taking a swing as big as Biohazard in the big 26. If 7 came out today, we'd probably get something closer to Resident Evil 2 Remake, something new and scary but still tied to that original formula. And that's cool. I think 2 Remake is one of the best games ever made. Maybe even better than 7 in some ways, but that big swing gave us the Louisiana swamp setting and the Psycho Baker family, along with one of the coolest twisting narratives in all of horror gaming. End of the day, this game rules. It's always going to be a favorite of mine, and I can't wait to play 9, which I will be streaming on here on launch day, just all day. So if you want to, you should subscribe, watch, stick around. I'm also hoping to get my Resident Evil Village out. I'm also hoping to get my Resident Evil Village video out before then, so keep your eyes peeled. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. All right, thank you. Goodbye.